From the National Weather Service in Raleigh, it's Nick Petro with your 9 a.m. update here on Friday morning here, the 8th of January. So let me turn on my screen here. Sorry, I forgot to do that. And what I first thought I would start off with is live radar, since we are in the midst of the in the event. And I have the color coding turned on so you could see precipitation type. Obviously, this is an approximation, but it's pretty close. And let me stop the loop here, and you can see the one thing that is indeed happening is that the triad has already changed over to snow. What hasn't, what the one thing that has differed from our thoughts from yesterday is that it's happened a little bit later in the morning than we expected. Which, and that, having said that, a lot of the precipitation that we were expecting to put down some accumulation in the pre-dawn hours has already lifted north of the area. So right off the bat, our accumulations that we were predicting yesterday are probably going to be a little too high for the Western Piedmont and Triad area, just because a lot of that precipitation has already lifted through that should have already put down some accumulation. Nevertheless, here are some observations from the area. As I stop it, I'm going to mouse over, and Winston-Salem's reporting light snow with a temperature of 37. That temperature should fall a few degrees here with snow falling into the air. And Greensboro is reporting, if I can find that here, there it is right there, is reporting, I did, this is slightly dated, this observation. The observation I saw just a moment ago shows Greensboro reporting snow. But basically, it's confirming this color coding, and also our correlation coefficient product is also helpful in this because basically, without getting into the science of it all, typically we see this bright area as sort of where the changeover in the middle levels of the atmosphere is occurring, and typically behind that line where you see this solid red is typically where you would expect to see it having changed to snow. So the point is that we have the ability, using our radar, to kind of get a good sense for where the precipitation has changed over. That said, this color coding is worked out pretty well. As you can see, places across the triangle region and points east are not going to have any problems here. In fact, the general gist is that whatever does occur in central North Carolina will be generally fairly light and limited in impact as we head through the morning and into the afternoon hours. Real quick, let me put the radar on the GR Earth here as well, and let me overlay some temperatures so you can get a sense that it's fairly warm. Once you get east of the Triad, we've got mid and upper 30s in this rain area here. Let me get my highlighter here. So this band right here, all this is rain, and it's very, very warm. Well, not very, very warm, but it's warm enough for this to be rain. You'll see the temperatures back where it's snowing begin to fall, and that's kind of what we've been advertising, is that basically areas along and north of I-85 would be the places where it would be snowing during the daytime today, and that does appear to be the case. You'll notice some drying has occurred here, basically across the south and southeast portions of central North Carolina. All right, so how is all this going to evolve? Well, first of all, our original accumulations that we had for the Triad will need to be cut back, because we missed out an opportunity to accumulate a little bit in the pre-dawn hours, which we were thinking roughly a third or maybe even a half of the total accumulation in the Triad would have already happened, and that did not happen. It is starting to snow there now, but certainly we're looking at a situation here where we're going to be throughout the morning hours updating our forecast snowfall totals. And while I don't have those the latest stuff ready for this briefing, I do plan on sending out the slides late this morning or maybe by noon with our latest totals. But let me just run you through some additional simulations here. And you're probably wondering, well, how can we really put a lot of stock in these simulations when the simulations that similar simulations we showed yesterday really didn't come to pass as well as we thought. Well, keep in mind too that obviously the models tend to do better the closer we are into an event. So, models should generally do reasonably well in the next 12 hours, in 0 hour out to the next 12 hours. So, but that said, there's still simulations, and there could be errors. So what we like to do is look at a variety of simulations, and that's what I've got here. I've got 4 different simulations for the same event, and you'll notice that even here in the very near term, the simulations offer quite a bit of difference. For instance, this simulation in the upper left shows a fairly solid band of snow along the north of 85 at 10 a.m. versus this model, which in the same area shows absolutely nothing. This model here shows more of a mixture along and north of 85 at 10 a.m., whereas this model here shows very little, if any. So it appears to me that maybe the 2 models on the left might be a little closer to reality as to what we're experiencing right now. So let's just go ahead and run through these real quick. And there's one thing I want to you'll notice here as I run through these. Here's 11 a.m. Here's noon. Here's 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. So the gist of kind of what we were conveying yesterday is still the same. That is, areas along and north of 85 are the places that during the daytime today will have the best chance to see snow. Once you go east and south of 85, it's really, really nothing to worry about in terms, it's all going to be rain through mid-afternoon today. And let me point out that even where it is snowing along and north of 85, the rates are not terribly high. So the thinking here is that for the next 4, maybe 5, 6 hours, we're going to have very little, if any, impact in terms of dangers or hazards associated even with the snow that is falling. It's fairly light, and the temperatures are still above freezing. So even where there is some flakes falling, we're not really expecting a whole lot of problems during the daytime. Okay, so I think for all of Central North Carolina, as we head through the rest of the morning and into the afternoon, I think whether you're north or south of 85, I think we're probably going to be okay. Where our concern shifts is what happens late this afternoon and into this evening as the system begins to exit. Here's simulations at 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. And one thing you'll notice in 7 p.m. And one thing you'll notice is that all of these models generally come into agreement that there's going to be sort of the backside of the low, a band of an area of snow that moves across Central North Carolina during the evening hours. And it's interesting how all 4 of these models that I'm demonstrating are in fairly good agreement. So showing that evolving as we head through the evening hours, and then as I push forward into 8 o'clock and 9 p.m. and the bottom 2 have to catch up because they're different models. But the general gist is that another thing you may notice is that there's more of a tendency for these models here to move this backside of the storm snow band a little bit further south across portions of Central North Carolina than what we'd been advertising. So in terms of this storm is happening in 2 batches, basically. The pre-dawn hours today, which didn't result in anything. And then the second wave is what happens on the backside of the storm late this afternoon and through this evening. And remember, we were always expecting that sort of the northern half of our area, the northwest half, if you cut our area, Central North Carolina, in half, northwest to southeast, our expectations was that always the northwest half would see more in the way of accumulation. So one of the things that is evolving with today's situation is that that may need, it may actually end up being maybe not complete reverse, but more in the way of snow occurring perhaps in the south than what we were expecting yesterday. Okay, so let me continue to run through these, and you'll see eventually it pretty much winds down overnight tonight. Okay, so that by 4 a.m. tonight, it's over. Okay, so let me back up again, and let me just run you through. And I apologize that these aren't exactly time matched. Again, they're different models, so the time matching doesn't always work. But let me just run through this one more time. Here's 10 a.m. and then as we head through by 1 p.m. and then by 4 p.m. today, you'll start to see that the area of snow is beginning to sort of evolve into this band on the back side. It's still generally rain at 4 p.m. Along and east of the US 1 corridor. Remember, US 1 corridor runs kind of like that. So let me clear this so we can continue moving through. There's 4 p.m., 7 p.m., and 10 p.m. So the going back to live radar. Let me go back to live radar so you can follow along here. The expectation is that an area will fill in generally in this manner, and then move to the pivot to the south and east through the evening hours. Okay, so that's how we expect this to evolve as we head through the rest of today. I know it's a little tricky to follow along, but let me switch to our web page to show you basically what we're kind of thinking in terms of snow amounts. And obviously, the things in question here is whether or not the advisory is ultimately going to be needed for these northern counties that I've circled right here. We may, in fact, ultimately may drop these counties from the advisory if the snow this morning and early afternoon doesn't really get going, which likelihood it's probably not, because most of this evening snow will probably stay further to the south now. Now, we've kind of been talking and kicking around the idea that we might need to expand the advisory further south if that late afternoon and evening band does appear to gather strength. So the bottom line is this is a very fluid situation, okay, and many of the North Carolina winter weather events are of this manner. They're difficult to predict as always. And so you'll want to stay tuned. Definitely follow your email, check your email periodically. If we anticipate any changes in the advisories, we'll be pushing those out throughout the day today. But let me wrap up here by showing the winter slide here. And this is our latest forecast here. And I just wanted to demonstrate this because I'm thinking that we're probably, and our forecasters right now, who are, again, sitting, 10, 15 feet behind me here in our operations center, we are in the process of reorganizing this a little bit to probably expand this 1 to 2 inch band maybe a little bit further to the south than what it is. So I'm not saying this is exactly what it's going to look like, but generally that's the gist of it, is that we are probably going to have to take this 1 to 2 inch band and stretch it maybe a little bit further to the south and east, and maybe lower amounts perhaps up in the north and northeast. Okay, so anyway, I'm sorry I don't have this in a nice fancy looking slide, but it's such a fluid situation that I just don't have the finished products available at this moment to share in a slide. So anyway, we're working on that now. I expect many of the updates will be available very soon, and when they are available, when the finished products are done, I'll package all those up in a nice slide set and email it out to everybody. So my goal is to have that out by 11 or noon today. But just rest assured that if you're in this area further south, okay, like in more of central portions of central North Carolina, the snow won't be coming until this evening. Okay, so where it's going to be snowing here over the next few hours is, again, like we've been advertising, along and north of I-85. And even there, we're not really expecting a lot to accumulate here during the daytime. All right, so with that is my 9 a.m. update.